Roger Milward. I'm just an ordinary guy. Moderator, members, friends, visitors. Joys, challenges, and a tribute after being an elder for 50 years. It's a long story, 50 years in 5 minutes. I now know how it must feel to sit in the famous big black chair. I'll not start from the very beginning, but being son of a congregational deacon, being infatuated at a very early age and subsequently marrying a daughter of the manse, I really could write a book. But I'll start around page 20. While we were living in Bristol in 1968, I was elected as a deacon within the membership of Staple Hill Congregational Church. It was there I shared in the conversations and with the vote, which, if I remember correctly, required a 70 or was it 75%, somebody else here might remember, majority within our churches to be part of the United Reformed Church. Staple Hill appointed me as their rep to witness the declaration of the vote in London and the celebration of the formation of the United Reformed Church. Not the United Reform, but the United Reformed Church. Page 21. I awoke on the morning of October the 5th, 1972 as a deacon. In the evening, I was a joyful member of the United Reformed Church. And at the next church meeting was elected, ordained, and inducted as an elder. In his London address to a very full gathering, some of John Huxtable's words ring in my ears, encouraging us to rejoice in the ecumenical decision made. He saw it as a new beginning, though suggested that in 25 years, the longing for the growth of an even greater ecumenical desire would see the United Reformed Church, as we then saw it, disappear, merged into an even broader union. It was a joy, therefore, to see our denomination expand and merge with the Churches of Christ, who joined us in 1981, followed by the Scottish Congregationalists in the year 2000. In some areas, we did move forward, as John suggested, into the world of LEPs, where resources and riches of other denominations could be shared along the way. Like all new ventures, they both bring joys and challenges. The degree of richness in being part of eldership in 5 separate churches differed in each church. By the grace of my God of love, hope, and compassion, I have been encouraged to walk and sometimes share walks along roads unknown and be steered and lifted through some very difficult decision-making. I felt him prodding, pushing, withholding, and encouraging me through many encounters. But as believers and receivers of God's grace and mercy, haven't we all been in that situation? I give thanks that through the discernment, guidance, and friendship of others, I was elected and have been able to share those same God-given gifts through my 50 years of being an elder. It has been a joy to meet with so many church folk, be they friends, seekers, or members within and beyond our denomination. As Richard Gallard, Servant King, says, we are all pilgrims on a journey and companions on the road. We're here to help each other walk the mile and share the load. As elders, we're called to carry the responsibility to share that walk in pastoral oversight and leadership of our congregations. Though not seeking any reward, it has been a joy to be part of welcoming, sharing, listening, caring elders and church meetings. When I felt in those meetings we were being led by the Spirit, enhanced with prayer, where I felt God leading us, while in some cases being told, hang on in there, in challenging situations, to await his plans for us. The real joy that followed October the 5th, 1972, was watching how God brought together many independent churches into a family wherein resources, people, hope, and faith could be shared. Described at the time by an MP as one of the most historic measures of the Christian church in this country, we continue to live out that challenge. Together with many throughout our denomination, I have through the years sought both within elders and church meetings to seek not only my way forward, but to encourage others and enable others, if they wished, to share a similar walk with me. It has been a blessing not only to try to give, but to receive. I'm not perfect, none of us are, but to continue to share in the realization of God's forgiving and eternal love in so many ways has been my own personal joy. Camilla asked me if I could remember or would like to talk about any challenges, two brief ones. One of my biggest challenges came while in Mersey Synod, following being asked to be a participant in Graham Cook's experimental training course to create local church leaders. 12 weeks travelling from Chester to St Helens was, I have to admit, a bit of a slog. But it stood me in good stead to prepare me for one of my most difficult challenges. I later received a phone call from the then moderator saying, as they couldn't find anyone with spare capacity, and as I was deemed to have satisfactorily completed the course, could I act as an interim moderator for a small church? Wow, how do you say no? My heart goes out to our moderators seeking to fulfill that role. No extra training for me, just paper guidance. It was not an easy task, but with God's guidance as an NSM, I've had my lunch, pardon me, an NSM was inducted. We got there in the end. Another challenge I have on at least two occasions, with God's help, endeavoured with others to play a healing role when, during the search and the then calling of a minister, failure has resulted in disappointment, confusion, angst, and even tears, when either the church members or the candidate did not feel the process should continue. Helping to bring this discernment of the process and to bring healing to a broken membership needed much prayer. It was painful for the membership, and I have no doubt for the candidates and the recommending moderators. To try to bring peace through a passage of time was not easy. However, as part of the healing, I prayed, believed, and recognized that God was, as the hymn says, working his purpose out, and gave all parties an eventual understanding. With the recommended passage of time and reflection, the result saw a real love for each other return as members drew closer again. I give thanks that, following from a distance, I noted that the candidates involved moved on into successful ministries wherever God took them. Thanks be to God. Joys and challenges, yes, there have been many. I thank God and pay tribute to my wife, Chris, and all who have walked the way with me for being my strength and guide. I pray that I have served God well. I don't know whether John Slow is able to, and is even zooming in or listening, but if anybody can pass in this message. John, if you're of a mind to be zooming in, thank you for your words. Go on, Roger. You can do it. Bless him.
Thank you, moderator, members of Synod. I think I've come at this from a very different tact to Roger. So, Camilla asked me to speak on the joy of being an elder. And this week, I started thinking, what am I going to say to Synod on Saturday? And to be honest, I wasn't sure where to start. I don't know what that says about the church or about me at the moment. But I started thinking about joy. And I looked in the dictionary to see what that definition of joy was. And it said, a feeling of great pleasure and great happiness. And I thought, when do I feel that joy as an elder? Do I feel that joy when I realise it's the second Wednesday of the month, and that evening, after a long day at work, I've got to drive to an elders' meeting? I can't say I always do. Maybe I should. Do I feel that joy when I realise it's Sunday morning and I'm a duty elder, and I've got to get to church and set everything up? Again, maybe I should, but I probably don't, to be honest. Do I feel that joy when I open up my church email address and look at the inbox and see the number of things that need to be responded to? Again, maybe I should, but in honesty, I probably don't. So I sat thinking about what I was going to say to you, and I decided to send a message on our WhatsApp group for all our elders at Newport Pagnell and said, I need some inspiration. Can you send me a picture, a word, a sentence that sums up the joy of being an elder to you? And 5 hours later, I'd still heard nothing. So, maybe that says something about where we are as a church at Newport Pagnell. We've just come out of a 2-year vacancy. Prior to that, our minister was on sabbatical. It's been a time where we've had to manage the day-to-day living of being an elder and keeping a church going. But whilst I might not feel that great elation and great happiness, there is something that makes me want to be an elder. So what is that something? So then I did what probably most people my generation do when you're not sure about something. You go on Google. And I was reading different websites about joy, and about joy in the Bible, about Christian joy. And I read one that said, joy is a perpetual gladness of the heart that comes from knowing, experiencing, and trusting Jesus. It said, joy, in other words, is the response and the reaction of the soul to the knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. If I take that definition of joy, then I think it's much easier for me to talk about the joy of being an elder. There's a joy in the sense of togetherness that comes from working as part of a team of elders to serve the church. There's a joy and a privilege of being elected to serve a church and to serve God in this way and ensure that everyone in the church is cared for. There's a joy of supporting and working alongside a minister. And there can even be joy in working through that inbox of emails. If you know that responding to those emails does something that perhaps maintains a building or provides something else that allows people to worship God. And there's a joy in supporting and providing worship, which then may help people to feel closer to God or develop in their relationship with Him. So whilst I'm not sure that I experience that great elation and great happiness about being an elder, there is that perpetual gladness of heart and an inner joy in being able to serve in this way. Maybe thinking through this has taught me not always to look for that mountaintop experience, but to look to God and within to experience the quiet joy and privilege of being an elder. Thank you, moderator.